Hi, this is Carrie Schell from On Point Quilter. In today's video tutorial, I'm going to share with you some tips for combining blocks from the block library into new and unique blocks that will be one of a kind for your next quilt. Okay, we're going to start by going to the block library. So I'll select Libraries, Block Library, and I'm going to search by note card for Providence. And I'll click on search, and there actually were 10 variations of the block that are recorded here, so I will select one of them and I'll go ahead and add that to the sketchbook. And then while we're at it, I'm going to do a search by note card for 5-patch chain. Make sure you type out both the word 5 and patch. And I'm going to go ahead and add that to the sketchbook as well. Okay, so what I wanted to do is I'm going to first go to work on block, and I'm just going to create a 9-patch block. And I'm just going to use my grid, set it to the columns of 3 and rows of 3. And I'm not even going to color it. I'm just going to go ahead and add it to the sketchbook. And I wanted to show you what one of my challenges is. So I like to use the merge block. And if I go to block, serendipity, merge block, you will notice that the 9-patch is not one of my options for doing the merge block. And that's because the square is not large enough to basically for EQ to accept as a viable candidate for a merge block. The other way that I a lot of times will do a merge block, in other words, so I could get a bigger block into one of these components, is through resize. So if I viewed my sketchbook and went to, let's say, this one of these blocks, so let me just select that one, select edit. So I'm going to use the pick tool. I'm going to do a Control plus the A key and select them all, and I'm going to right click, and notice that resize is an option. So when I select resize, it lets me put in a percentage, which is great as long as I have a whole percentage. But for this one, because I want it in a 9-patch, I would need to set that percentage at 33.33333%, which EQ doesn't allow me to do. So I ended up basically deciding not to go down that path, and I decided to go back to my 9-patch, and I decided to force it to be acceptable to EQ in that merge process. And I'm going to do that by basically taking out 4 of the lines, which is going to give it a big square. And so I can add that to the sketchbook. Now when I do the block serendipity merge block, if you look at that last one that's added, it now is showing that as an acceptable block. Now I can take my Providence block and I can actually put it in any of the open squares. So I know I'm going to put this in the corner, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to add that to my sketchbook, and I'm going to close. Now I'm going to view my sketchbook. I'm going to find the block with Providence in it and select edit. Now notice that this block is now set up to work. It's basically resized it, and it's resized it to fit the corner. So I'm going to make sure my setups are block width and height of 15 by 15, my snaps of 30 by 30. Notice that that will still allow me to snap to every inch, and I want to make sure snap to grid is the only thing that's on. So now I'm going to first of all use the line tool, and I'm going to draw back those missing lines in my 9-patch. And then I'm going to use the pick tool, and I'm going to select one of those top quadrants, and I am going to right click on the pick tool, and I'm going to go ahead and select clone, and I can basically move that in place. And because snap to grid is on and I've set my snap points the way I have, it should just snap in place. So I'm going to continue to do clones, and I'm going to fill basically every other quadrant in my 9 patch. Now, if I had needed to rotate because I had an asymmetrical block, I could do that as part of this process as well. But this is a symmetrical block, so it really doesn't matter. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Color tab, and I'm going to pick up a fabric, and I just want to do some testing to make sure that all of my lines are good. Really, the thing that I'm looking for is bleed, and as long as it only does one patch at a time, I know that I have no bleed going on, which actually is looking really good here. I could select all of them, but I think I've done enough now to basically confirm I've created a good block. I'm not going to worry about coloring at this point because I want to merge another block into this empty space. So I'm going to add this to the sketchbook. The other thing that you'll notice is that when I did the merge, it basically put it in Easy Draw plus Applique. I really want this one only to be an Easy Draw. So I'm going to go back to the Easy Draw tab. I'm going to do, again, a Control A to select everything. And I'm going to select Copy, or this could be the Control plus the C key on your keyboard. And I'm going to do a block, New Block, Easy Draw, and I'm going to select Paste, or the Control plus the V key as in Victor on your keyboard. Now, I need to move this in place. And again, it should snap because of my snap settings, and you can usually tell when you get close and you sort of let go, and it's sort of, you can see that little movement where it snaps into place. And now I can go to the Color tab and I can add that to my sketchbook. Okay, for the next block, I am going to do a merge block again, and so I'll do a block, Serendipity, merge block. I'm going to select that same odd 9 patch, and I'm going to select the square within a square, or that five patch chain block. And again, I'm going to put that one in one of the blocks that I know it's going to stay in, or one of the sections, and I'm going to add that to the sketchbook and close. So now when I view my sketchbook, my last block is my 5 chain that's merged. And for this one, again, I'm going to make sure my settings are 15 by 15, 30 by 30. I'll use my pencil tool or my line tool to redraw the 9 patch. I'll use my pick tool, pick up the 5 chain, and I'm going to actually just right click, and I'm going to clone that, and I'm going to continue to clone. Oh, and I put that in the wrong space, so I'm going to do some Control Z's or undos to get that back, and I'm going to go ahead now and just do that correctly. Okay, for this one, I'm going to go ahead and add it to the sketchbook, and again with my pick tool, I'm going to do a Control A, and I'm going to select Copy. And now in my View Sketchbook, I'm going to find the other half of my block, basically this one here, and select Edit. And now I'm going to do a Paste, and I am going to go ahead and let that snap in place. And now I am ready to use my coloring tools and color the block. Okay, now that my block is colored, I can go ahead and add that to my sketchbook. And now I can go ahead and create my quilt. So I'm going to go to Work on Quilt. I'm going to do a quilt, new quilt, horizontal layout. And I'm going to set my layout to 3 by 3. And I'm going to set my block size to 15 by 15. And I think that will be a good size. It will allow me to use a 1-inch grid. Now if I wanted this to be based on a 2-inch grid, I could make the blocks 30 by 30. And I decided I'm going to go ahead and put some sashing in. So I played with this a bit, and I think I'm just going to do a 2 by 2, and I'm going to have a sash border as well. So now I can go to layer 1, I can select set block, and I'm going to take my block and basically use the control key and put it in my my drawing here. Now I also decided that maybe I would use a square within a square for the sashing. So let's go ahead and select that. And then I need to fill in the sashing squares, and so I can pick a fabric. I'll just use an eyedropper tool. Maybe I'll start with that one. And again, I'm using the control key. I'm filling that in. And I can also create a border. So I'm going to go to my border tab, and I'm going to make the border 5 inches. And I'm going to select the type corner blocks. Now in layer 1, I can take my set block tool, and I'm going to find one of the colored Providence blocks, and I'm going to go ahead and use the control key in the border, and I'm going to create basically another block to put in these, because it is a rather big border, particularly with all the piecing going on, and I'm going to go ahead and create a variation of a 5 chain. So I'm going to go back to work on block, do a block, new block, easy draw, and for this one, I'm just going to set it at 5 by 5. My snap's 5 by 5, and I am going to just draw a long line at the 2-inch and the 3-inch mark, and I can go ahead and color that, and I can add that to the sketchbook. Now when I go back to work on quilt and do the set block, I can take this and I can insert it in all 4 sides. And I do need to rotate 2 of those so that they work correctly. And now I can go ahead and add my block to, or add my quilt to the sketchbook. Now I did also think about another option where I just got rid of the sashing. So let me do that. And I think that is actually a very fun alternative as well. So I'll go ahead and add that to the sketchbook. Thanks so much for watching. In my related blog post this week, I also showed another example where I used a monkey wrench block and a square within a square block to create another unique design that I placed in an on-point layout. So check out that quilt as well. And if you like these videos, please subscribe to my weekly newsletter at www.onpointquilter.com.